Hello, welcome back. We're almost ready to finish the book, so today we'll look at focus and finishing. Let's get started. Now, somebody said to me recently that a friend of theirs had written a book, and she was telling me, she said, I could only read 10 pages, and I haven't got the heart to tell him that it's not very good. And this is something that you must avoid at all costs. You never want somebody to be saying, oh yeah, I like your book. Yeah, it was really nice, but I haven't finished it. I haven't read it. When really they don't like it. And they're not telling you because they don't want to hurt your feelings. So it becomes important to solicit some feedback, but it's really important in how you get it. And the best way that I've found is when I'm ready, I put it out and I say to people, can you tell me 5 things that will improve it? And then I give it to some trusted test readers. But the important thing is to make sure that what you're asking for is not, do you like it? Because if you say, do you like it? They'll always tell you that they do. No matter what. Even if it's terrible, they'll tell you that they like it. So this is really important. Now with the Obsidian, I'd gone through 5 drafts and I thought it was looking quite good. And I gave it out to people to read. And the same thing came back. People were saying that in the first part, they just didn't really care for the story. There are 4 parts to the book, but for the first quarter of the book, they couldn't really see any reason to continue reading. That was really interesting to me. I thought, what is it about it? Why is it not a page turner? Why can people put it down and not pick it back up? So to solve this, I put it away. I just put it to one side and left it for a few weeks and then came back to try and see it with fresh eyes. And what I realized was that there was a lack of focus. In that first part, although everything's happening, there's a ghost train and there's a man looking for his wife and we're meeting clairvoyants and we're traveling to London and having to do an investigation and try and unlock a mystery, it doesn't really have focus. You don't really know what it was about. So I decided to make it just about the lead character, Robert. Why is it his story? What is he trying to do? And the more I looked at it, the more I realized what I was missing was I should be saying it's about a man who has lost his wife and he's still clinging on to her. He's still clinging on, trying to hold on to those memories. So how did I change this? Well, we look in the writing studio, I created an emblem, a token. It's a little brass brooch that I said his wife wore on her wedding dress. It's an angel, and he's attached it to his pocket watch. So if I read a part out, from his waistcoat, he took his pocket watch and toyed with the brass angel brooch fixed to the chain. James had seen it many times. 1 inch in height with open wings, Rebecca had worn that brooch frequently. Now Robert held it as a keepsake on a chain to his watch. So we have this little icon. Why is that important? Well, it means that Robert can actually talk to it. This sometimes happens if you have friends or family who die. Sometimes you'll find yourself talking to them even though they're not around. And by giving him this little token that he can hold when he's under stress, he could talk to it and therefore almost as though he's trying to talk to his wife. So here's another piece. So Robert has got to London and he is in the bar and he's talking to somebody who's going to tell him about mediums. And he says, the drink arrived for him, thank you, he mumbled as he passed payment to the barman. Instinctively his hand went to his waistcoat pocket to touch the brass angel. Rebecca, give me strength, he whispered. He can talk to her. That's the nice thing. It's almost as though she's this character who hasn't left him. And that's what we're trying to show. Now, once I put this in, it started to feel a lot more fluid. It started to feel more flowing. We knew what the story was about. It's about a man who's lost his wife, and he just can't let go. He's got this physical thing, this memento. He can physically hold it. He cannot let go. And it's a brooch. It's a little piece of brass. But he couldn't do it. And that was what the story was missing. We had everything else. We had ghost trains and trips to London. But what the story was really about was a man who couldn't let go of his wife. And the only way that I found that was giving it to test readers and saying, tell me 5 things that would help me improve. Now, a question people often ask is, how do I know when I'm finished? Now, that's an interesting question, because you'll probably feel it, and then you put it away for a while. You do your writing, you put it away, and then you come back and read it, and you say, oh, I need to change some things. For me, it takes about 5 drafts to get to where I want to go. And with the Obsidian, it took 6 drafts. What I would say is that as you're writing, when it feels as though with every draft you're changing less and less, that's a really good sign. When you're not making any material changes, when you're just changing the way around a sentence goes, or you're changing a little bit of structure, or you're just changing the grammar, that's a sign that you're coming to the close, and that's where we really want to start looking to lock it up and get to the end. Now, one of the problems I've seen with students is that quite often they'll start adding things when really they need to be cutting. You need to be shaping your story. And I liken this to a sculptor working in clay, where they pick up pieces of clay and they stick it together, and then they start trimming away and cutting back the layers to get to the shape that they want. Quite often novice writers will keep adding clay as they're taking it off. This isn't the way to do it. What you're looking to do is just cut, make the story appear, make it organic, make it flow, and move on. You don't want to be adding. You don't want to be putting extra pieces in, unless, as I had with the Brass Angel, unless it's part of the focus. If you're adding lots in, then your story is nowhere near finished, and you need to get to that point where you're writing by cutting. Less is more. You don't need to describe, you don't need to go into big long crazy details, you don't need to show expanded histories. You need to show the story, focus on it, focus what's important, focus for what the character needs to see, and move on. In the next episode, we'll call our story complete and we'll move on to publishing. See you next time.